All right, so guys, I want to just show you some attachments just using wire, which is actually the most frequent attachment that I make. You can just sort of join the wire together by just sort of bending the two together. And that would just be like just taking your needle nose pliers, grabbing it at the end, and just sort of rolling it over until you've created sort of a loop. And you can offset the loop. So then, you know, when the other piece would be joined, actually, we'll just do it. You could just simply slide that through and then, you know, pinch those down. I'm not going to do that because I want to actually use this piece of wire to demonstrate another attachment, but you get the idea, right? So this is a really good one for, say, something that's going to be hanging, like James. He'll probably be maybe using some sort of attachment like that. Another attachment that this is actually the one my go-to attachment that I typically use all the time, is I actually just use another piece of wire, or I cut a piece of wire off of the gauge I'm using and just wrap it around and kind of make it actually look sort of like part of the sculpture. So the key, I think, you could also use a thinner gauge wire to sort of join two pieces together. I think this one adds more strength, so I thought I'd just show you that. One thing I want to talk about with you with attachments is you want to make your attachment look attractive, right? So I guess the thing you don't want to do is you don't want to like draw attention to an area by having it look bad, but have the attachment look bad. So you kind of want to make it look intentional and make it look nice. Again, with this one, you'll just take a piece of wire, and I would recommend trying the same gauge. It's more challenging to work with, but it'll do a nice job. Again, you're going to offset it like that, and you can kind of get your two pieces together. You're going to slide that in, get them together, and if you need to, you can tape them together temporarily to hold them. So there's a bit of a wrestle that goes on, I'll be honest with you, and it takes a little bit of skill to get used to using them, but once you have this offset, you'll see I can just start to sort of pinch that down. And then I'm going to also kind of roll and pinch the wire, or roll and twist that around. So, like I said, it's a bit of a wrestle to get started, but once you get going, you can actually get pretty proficient at this. And some of it you can do by hand, if your wire is malleable enough or thin enough gauge. Others, you're just going to have to use the pliers and sort of squeeze it and pinch it the whole way through. I'll also come back and kind of tidy things up like that, and then I usually will just keep like wrapping it or twisting it on like a twist tie, and that actually like locks it in really tight. So these are just ways to attach things without adhesive, without solder. I definitely will show you how to do things with solder, but you get the idea of how that you can make that attachment pretty well. So I just like to be able to attach things without adhesive and glue. I think it's pretty effective. It adds interest oftentimes. So, you know, like a piece of metal, oftentimes we'll just drill through and then we'll join it with another little twist tie or, piece of wire. Stuff like this, you can actually use your diagonal pliers, and we could actually go through and sort of zip off an end here. And if you pull that off, you actually have a little bit of a tail that you can actually like curl around and wrap together onto another piece. So for example, if I was gonna, actually make this a hollow tube or something, I could actually take that little tail and wrap it around here and close it off, and then it will be joined, right? Another option is I could think like a craft person or a sewer, and I could use a piece of wire to sort of stitch through and join this to another piece, right? I would say this stovepipe wire, the annealed wire, is black wire. It's going to be much softer to work with, but you can't solder with it. If it's silver, it's steel. So if it's silver, you can solder. If it's black, it's annealed, and you cannot. It's already soft enough to work with. All right, last thing I want to show you guys is a little bit more dramatic, but I thought, especially for James, this might be helpful. Well, actually, before I show you that, so this is what soldering looks like, and this I'll demonstrate at a different time. It's just sort of melting softer metal in and joining the two that way. Sometimes it looks a little globby, and it's hard to solder everything because sometimes you end up heating something up and melting something else. So, but I'll be showing you that soon too. One thing I wanted to show you, and I thought especially for a few of you, this might be really handy to know. This is basically how you'd make what we call a jump ring. And basically you take a piece of metal, usually a little heavier gauge, and you wrap it around some sort of dowel, okay? Something circular. Again, if it's a heavier gauge, it might be a bit of a wrestle here. So it might take you, actually I'm just gonna go around this piece of wood. It might be a little easier for this little demonstration. Again, you wanna get this sort of evenly or tightly wrapped. The steel's a little harder to work with, but in the end it kind of pays off because it doesn't change its shape as much. Okay, let me just snip that off. So I would want to sort of do like I did with that last one and kind of join these together, pinch these together carefully or closely, as close as I can get them. I typically get them even closer than that so they're all equal in diameter. But you know, this would slide off and you can see from your point of view, it's all relatively the same size. So here's what a jump ring is. It's just basically creating a ring. So here's how you would do that then. I would wrap a big piece if you want to create a lot of rings. We just keep wrapping around until you've filled up a big section of the pipe. Then you're just going to take make sure you have glasses on. You'll take a rotary tool, a Dremel tool, right? And we're just going to make like a diagonal cut through, okay? So I'll do that now and I'll show you what you get. Oh, we're also going to want to wear a pair of gloves. Safety note. Glasses and gloves, right? Because pieces can go flying for your eyes, and metal heats. It conducts. So you want to cut through. And then what you get, if I would cut through all of these, which I didn't complete it, but you get the idea here, is it makes so much noise and I'm running out of time, but I would cut through all the way. Whatever cuts I didn't complete, I could simply just get with the clippers here. But what you got is you've got a ring, and that diagonal cut can then be joined together. So it's kind of just like creating a jump ring, or a ring that will be kind of stiff metal, that these could be soldered, but oftentimes they're strong enough that you can kind of link things together pretty easily. This is a technique that a lot of metal workers and jewelers use. So what we're kind of doing is you know, implementing, you know, sort of techniques that maybe a crafts person would use with sewing, or a metal person would use, metalsmith would work, or a jeweler would work with. And if I would have taken more care to do this, that diagonal cut would have been cleaner, and you end up with, you know, and the opportunity to kind of join things and hang things pretty easily. So those are some basic techniques for joining wire.